And the other point is just 1 hour ago, Yemenis have announced a blockade on Saudi Arabia, which is something new because of the siege that they had on Yemen for many years. So coming back to the position of Donald Trump and his administration, which is basically right now, the main objective is to open up the Strait of Hormuz. And the continuation of the war, it seems that one of the main, tools in their hand or in their mind. Well, how do you see the current phase of the conflict between Iran and the United States?
Well, I've always believed that Iran has won this war and that the United States has no strategy that it can employ to reverse that basic fact of life. I think that the memorandum of understanding that was signed on 17 June was basically a surrender document. The United States recognized that Iran had the upper hand. And if you look at the memorandum of understanding carefully, it's clear that the Iranians won on virtually every count. But then for some reason, President Trump decided that he was going to violate that memorandum. And he was going to try and create a channel through the Strait of Hormuz that was American dominated. And the Iranians, of course, said this was unacceptable. And they attacked some ships that tried to come through that American dominated channel. The United States responded by attacking Iran. And you now have this tit for tat campaign that's taking place between the two sides. I think it started on July 8th, and with 1 or 2 days off, it's gone on constantly since then. And the question I think that you have to ask yourself is, what's the end result of this tit for tat strategy? Does the United States win? Does it get Iran to concede that it doesn't fully control the Strait of Hormuz? Or does the United States lose because the Iranians simply won't quit? And moreover, the Iranians have escalation dominance. Which one of those stories do you believe? And I personally think the evidence is manifestly clear that we meaning the Americans, cannot win the tit for tat strategy. And the Iranians can, and the Iranians are winning. If you look at what's happening, it used to be the case that nobody talked about bombing Jordan because all the American military assets that mattered to the Iranians were in places like Kuwait, Bahrain, the UAE, and so forth and so on. What's happened is that American bases in those Gulf states have been so thoroughly wrecked or destroyed or damaged that Jordan has become the place where we locate most of our key military assets to use against Iran. So what has now happened in recent times is that the Iranians are going after American forces inside of Jordan. And I think it's fair to say they are doing an excellent job from Iran's point of view in tearing apart those American installations inside of Jordan. And you get the sense watching this unfold that what's going to happen is that the United States is going to have to move all its military forces back to Israel. And by the way, Israel is not terribly enthusiastic about having those American military forces on its bases because the Israelis understand, just like the Gulf states understand, and just like Jordan understands, that you become a giant magnet that attracts Iranian missiles and Iranian drones. And the Israelis don't want that any more than the Jordanians do, any more than the Gulf states do. So the United States is actually slowly but steadily losing its power projection capability in the Gulf. This all tells you that Iran has the upper hand. Now, what Trump has threatened to do, given this situation, is go after power stations and bridges and maybe oil facilities, what we sometimes call civilian infrastructure, inside of Iran. This is how he's going to escalate in this tit for tat campaign and get the Iranians to finally throw up their hands. But this is not going to work because the Iranians will retaliate in kind, as they have demonstrated time after time. And the Iranians can effectively wreck countries like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait by going after their oil and gas facilities, going after their desalination plants. The Iranians have the upper hand as you go up the escalation ladder. So Trump's threat to go after civilian infrastructure inside of Iran is not going to produce victory for the United States. In fact, it's just going to make a bad situation worse. Now, my final point, and I don't want to go on too long here, but it is of enormous importance, is that the Houthis have announced that they're shutting down the Red Sea to Saudi traffic. As we all know, the Saudis have actually been shipping a lot of their oil out through the Red Sea. And they're not in a position to send stuff out through the Strait of Hormuz for all the obvious reasons. The Iranians control the Strait of Hormuz, but they have been able to send it out via a pipeline that goes across Saudi Arabia to the port of Yanbu, and then the oil's unloaded at Yanbu and shipped out through the Red Sea. Well, the Houthis have said they're shutting down Bab el-Mandab. That's the strait that is at the bottom of the Red Sea. The Houthis are going to shut it down to Saudi oil. This will have a huge consequence on the flow